Hello chess friends and welcome to your of Chess channel and welcome to the Tata Steel Chess India Rapid and Blitz tournament in 2024. This tournament started today and it will be, I think, really incredible one because we'll have 8 top grandmasters battling it out in rapid chess, but then also in blitz chess. First of all, we'll see one round robin of rapid chess and then a 2 round robin of blitz chess. Among many great players that we have here, we have also the strongest player in the world. Magnus Carlsen is here. Really good thing for us. Arjun Erigaisi is playing Praggnanandhaa, Nodirbek Abdusattorov, Vincent Keymer. So I'm looking forward for the game between Arjun Erigaisi and Magnus Carlsen because recently Arjun had a really high rating in classical time format chess. I wanted to see really here how Arjun can perform finally against Magnus Carlsen. So I think this will be the derby of the event. But now we're starting with an amazing gameplay by Nihal Sarin against Magnus Carlsen from the round 2 of this beautiful chess tournament. In the first round, Magnus Carlsen with the white pieces played a draw against Praggnanandhaa. So many things will happen, but let's now dive into this game because this was really a crazy one with many ups and downs with really huge upsets then in the end game stage. So let's see now what happened with the white pieces. Nihal Sarin opened with move d4 and the tempo of this game is 25 minutes on the clock plus 10 seconds increment per move. So we have here knight to f6 by Magnus, knight to f3, e6, we have now c4, d5, and after knight to c3 we have now the 3 knights variation of the Queen's Gambit decline. Magnus goes into the Vienna variation with d takes c4, which is in my opinion really a good approach. If you want to maybe practice an opening against d4, I think the Vienna variation is perfectly fine. We have now the move e4, bishop to b4. Magnus pins now the knight that's controlling also the e4 square, and here Nihal Sarin picks up now the pawn on c4. This is the standard line after knight to e4, kingside castling. There are basically 2 approaches that black can do. Black gain the pawn. Black can of course also play here knight takes c3, and then after b takes c3, bishop to e7, knight to e5 would be then the standard line. Okay, black in this line is up a pawn, but white has a great activity with all of its pieces here. Look at this, bishop is very well placed here on c4. The queen will come into the game, so I think the compensation for the lost pawn here is a beautiful piece activity. But Magnus chose the different line. He retreated to f6 with the knight. Now Nihal Sarin plays of course the standard line also with queen to a4, hits now the bishop and also the king, which forces now the move knight to c6 here by Magnus. Knight to e5, pinning now the knight, and now rook to b8 because the threat was knight takes c6, and then after queen to c6 the rook could be hanging here on a8. We have now knight takes c6, b takes c6 by Magnus, and now Nihal Sarin gets his pawn back here with queen to a7. We have bishop to d7, which is, believe me or not, the best line here for black. At least this is the line that's suggested by the top engines now these days, and surprisingly this line has been only once played in a game in 2024. So no one played this line. Usually in chess history bishop to b7 has been played, or here let me see, and this line bishop to d7. So as I said, bishop to d7 only once played, which is really a better choice. You see now why, because after queen to a4 Magnus gets now an extra tempo with the bishop against the queen. So you see huge preparation here by Magnus Carlsen. Really interesting line. c5, queen to d1, and now c takes d4. Magnus undoubles now his pawns on the c file, has a decent activity, is only 1 move far away from castling, and I would say after bishop to c6 that the position is about equal. So equal chances I would say now for both sides. So really interesting fact that no one played this bishop to d7 line. Always bishop to b7 has been played. Why? Really Magnus improves here, really opening theory over in this beautiful tournament. So after bishop to c6, bishop to e3 by Nihal Sarin. Magnus doesn't want to take here because then you invite your opponent's bishop into the game, then the bishop gets activated. We have now bishop to d6 and now b3. Nihal Sarin fixes now also the piece on c4. We have now castling, rook from a to d1, knight to d7. Good move by Magnus, preparing of course to hop with the knight on e5, h3, knight to e5, and now we have bishop to e2, which was maybe a slightly too passive approach here by Nihal Sarin. Maybe a slightly better choice was to play f4 to kick away the knight. Then after knight to c4, queen to c4. Okay, maybe you are losing now your bishop pair, but the issue is here for black that white is controlling the e5 square. Queen to c4 comes now also with an extra tempo. Maybe we can go afterwards also with bishop to c5 ideas, trading off then the dark square bishops is also I think a good option afterwards. Maybe this was a slightly better way here for Nihal Sarin to somehow, I don't know, spice up the game. At least look at this, use this d-file attack. So maybe this was also a choice. Here, bishop to e2, slightly passive move, which allows now Magnus Carlsen to activate the queen. We have now f4, which becomes now the first really mistake in the game here by Nihal Sarin. This wasn't good. Here you have to play in a different way, more active. You have to play knight to e4, then after queen to g6, f3, and then after bishop to e4, queen to e4, after a couple of trades of queens. This would be still an equal game, I would say, because of the isolated e-pawn that white would have now. But white has, of course, a great compensation with this bishop pair, but playable line, I would say, again, here for both sides. f4 is a problem here because Magnus found a beautiful counter-attack with the move rook to b4. Brilliant move here by Magnus Carlsen. In faster time formats, to see this beautiful line is really crazy, because if you try f takes e5 to maybe also attack your opponent's queen, then queen to g6 is winning the game here for black. There is a checkmate threat immediately, and still the queen is hanging, and there's no way that you're going to retreat with the queen somehow to protect your g2 pawn. So this was already messy game here for Nihal Sarin after rook to b4. Now he has to play queen to d2. Magnus attacks now here the pawn on f4, bishop to f3, bishop takes f3, rook to f3, and now knight to h4. Here black is really the initiative. Black is now keeping the attacking flow. All of the pieces here by Magnus are really in good shape. They're on perfect squares. Really beautiful game so far by Magnus Carlsen. Really top engine lines he played here. Every move is simply the best move here by Magnus Carlsen. Really already the evaluations all about +1 in black's favor. Really amazing stuff so far by Magnus Carlsen. Rook to f1, knight to f5. Magnus hits now the bishop, knight to e2, and now you can take, of course, knight to e3, maybe getting use of your dark square bishop, but Magnus Carlsen kept it positional more here with move h5, which is also a good choice here. It's not a mistake or something that Magnus played with the move h5. And with this line, he's preventing any g4 stuff here by white. If you do that, then of course you get your simply too many spaces in front of the white's king. So that's why h5, nice move again here by Magnus. Bishop to f2, we have now h4. Magnus has now read the whole board for himself. He's paralyzing now a white's position till the end, and now after move h4, rook to c1, Nihal Sarin has to search for at least some kind of a counterplay. Rook to a8, Magnus includes now the last attacker into the game. That's how we play chess. All of the pieces have to play. Rook to c2, rook to a5, activating again the rook on a very active square. We have now queen to d3, and now rook to d5. Look how Magnus uses every single square just in order to put more pressure against Nihal Sarin. Queen to f3, queen to d8, also good move, keeping an eye on the d-file. If something clears, then white has a huge problem to somehow control the d-file with the heavy artillery. We have now rook from f to c1, and now Magnus, believe me or not, makes a huge inaccuracy, I would say here. The move is not so bad because it's not like white is having a better game here, but he should have kept it simply more aggressive. Here he played rook to b8. Really not sure why he played such a passive move without any complications here. He should have simply gone maybe with queen to e8, and after knight to c3, then there is a problem of rook to f4. Magnus probably didn't realize the huge threat of knight to c3 here. Now it's not possible because after rook to f4 you have to step back. You can even pick up here some pieces. Look at this, bishop to c5 in some lines working. I just showing the one line that could be possible, but rook to b8 is simply too passive, which is allowing now Nihal Sarin to play in the move knight to c3, and there's no counter play anymore here by black, and finally white has equalized the game. Knight to d4, queen to g4, knight takes d5. Here both players have now traded some pieces, and we have now completely equalish endgame here for both sides. But this is not over. You know how Magnus is playing this beautiful endgames. We have now rook to b4, bishop to h4. Nihal Sarin grabs a pawn, but of course, again, the compensation for black here for the lost pawn is now a beautiful piece activity on the e file. We have now rook to e2, rook to e4. Magnus attacks now the e file, and Nihal Sarin is threatening checkmate here on g7. Bishop to f8, rook takes e4, queen to e4, bishop to e5, and now Magnus created at least something. Again, the engine says here equal position, nothing can happen, but if you play, of course, the game perfectly here. Both players were already low on clock, below 1 minute on the clock, which was really tense battle now. Magnus created himself here a very dangerous pass pawn, which is hard to stop. You have to play really now accurate moves. First of all, queen to f3, good move here by Nihal Sarin. Magnus is, of course, not trading off the queens. He picks up now this pawn. Nihal is also picking up the pawn, but now Magnus has this counterattack with c5 and picks up now also the pawn on b3. So now Magnus Carlsen has a different now passer on the c file. Nothing wrong again here for white. If white again plays the queen correctly, this should end with the draw. Queen to d3, bishop to e7. Magnus is trying some stuff like bishop to f6 to somehow clear the c3 square for the pawn and push the pawn simply further. We have queen to f3, c4, queen to e3, bishop to f8, queen to d4, and now queen to b5, king to h8, and now f6. Magnus locks out now this potential threat on this diagonal against the g7 square. We have queen to e4, Magnus activates the king, queen to e2, and now queen to d5, king to g3, bishop to d6, with the preparation to play the move g5, and now comes the critical, really crazy moment of this beautiful endgame. Here, Nihal Sarin makes a huge mistake with queen to f3. You should have simply gone with h4. You have to prevent this move g5. Here, after queen to f3, Magnus has an immediate winning idea with queen to g5. That's the way to go. If, for instance, queen to g4 happens, then you have bishop to f4. Queen takes f4 cannot happen because of the tensions here on the g file. And Magnus would grab a pawn. Maybe it's not completely winning, but I think with such a huge problem on the clock, I think this would go in Magnus Carlsen's favor. He would have here really an extra pawn. He would simply try to push it, of course. Playable, maybe white could squeeze a draw, but really interesting fact that after queen to f3, here Magnus Carlsen played queen to f5 instead of queen to g5, and now the position is again equal. Nihal Sarin finally finds a beautiful drawish idea. He played queen to f2, allowed here Magnus Carlsen to grab a pawn, queen to d3, c takes d3, g3, kicking away the bishop to d2, king to g6, king to f3, f5, and now Nihal Sarin goes for the pawn, and here we have f4, king takes d3, and f takes g3, king to e2. And in this particular position, both players agreed to a draw. Even if you, instead of this move f4, here play bishop to g3, the issue here is there is a problem. White is always controlling the f3 square. We can simply pick up this one. Even if you go like this, then king to e2. Even if you go something like this, we can play king to f3. And if you pick up this one is taken. So 2 versus 1 with the same bishops here is not winning. So Magnus tried a different line with this f4 approach, but again, nothing spectacular is going on here. It's of course a thematic draw. So crazy endgame. Magnus missed, I think, here the win. Nihal allowed that. Nihal played a great game. He only played this mistake in the middle game stage where he allowed Magnus Carlsen to have active play, but Magnus Carlsen then played passively. Nihal found a good drawish idea, and this is now, I think, a deserved win in the round 2 of the Tata Steel Rapid and Blitz chess tournament in 2024. So, okay, this is a tournament that will follow now in the next couple of days. It will last now for 4 days. It will be, I think, a great one. We'll see what will happen. Also, I'll cover, of course, more games from this day to day with some more winning games, sharp tactical battles. Of course, we'll see. I think it's a really beautiful tournament for us to follow. So, okay, if you want to see some other content here on my YouTube chess channel, check out our commented chess games and also our commented chess games played by computers, where we analyze some beautiful AI games. And if you like this content, hit the subscribe button. See you soon with some more videos. And what do we say in the end? Chess is the best, of course.